All right, today, guys, we're here with some more red pills. It's a topic that I wanted to bring up just because I think it's a unique one. I'm looking at red flags again. There is a diminished sense of its presence, the warning sign of not having any hobbies. Before I get into this one, I want to point out that I believe this is a subject that is discussed quite frequently online. In my opinion, quite a few people have already talked about this topic. This is a problem that many people face in their romantic relationships, and contrary to popular belief, it is not always the case that the man has more interests than the woman does. Sometimes the woman is the more driven one and the man, depending on what kind of job he has, which could be a very demanding job or a job that requires a lot of physical labor, comes home wanting to just veg out and watch television. Because of this, he has less time to devote to his hobbies, and if his wife continues to be a stay-at-home parent, he may even lose her. For instance, they will have more time and energy to devote to their hobbies. However, there are times when this might not be the case. For example, she works full-time while also participating in her hobbies. Consequently, this is not really a black and white situation or a situation that can be summed up in a simple yes or no. Although there are exceptions, generally speaking, people believe that men have more hobbies than women do. However, this is not always the case. Certainly, a greater number of pastimes that require a greater financial investment on your part such as hunting, fishing, gaming, and even occasionally other activities, can be categorized under this rubric. I'm sorry, but I have no idea. Going to a variety of events or traveling on a whim, so whereas women, a lot of their hobbies are less financially demanding because they can do them at home, but what I'm getting into there is that men typically have more hobbies than women, and one of the things that I want to connect that to is just our biological differences. That, I believe, is going to be contested by a sizable number of people, in particular within the contemporary community of social justice warriors. Where men are concerned, they are not going to say that men are always, I'm going to say that men are driven to work biologically to provide women, and that women are biologically meant to raise children. This is a natural tendency that comes from our biology. They constitute our physical selves. Just look at our bodies. Examine the structure of our bodies. Pretty much everything can be answered by that. And as a consequence, women are going to be more focused on finding a partner and raising a child, while men are going to be more focused on earning money and working and doing things that will add to the financial freedom that he can provide for his family. I don't want to be the one to knock either. It is just the way things are, and a side effect of that is that the hobbies actually can be monetized fairly easily for men. Today, there are a lot of ways to do it, and I think that whether or not you're trying to monetize a hobby because you know that for years and years people just have hobbies of collecting things or hunting, and it's not really fiscally involved, but at the root of it, it's still about providing hunting even as fishing is. Collecting can also be as well. It can make money off of things that you know. So ultimately, even if we don't acknowledge it, the motivation behind it is always money. Which means that you have to provide for your family, so it stands to reason that men will naturally have more hobbies than women. You absolutely must give careful consideration to that aspect. You're going to notice an increase in the number of women who just want to talk, who want to go to bars and go get coffee, and who don't really want to spend their time with a hobby. It's possible that housework was more of a consideration than a hobby. Things like cooking, arranging flowers in vases, and rearranging my clothing are the kinds of tasks that are going to come more naturally to a woman, such as the tendency to do them. In spite of this, there are still women who engage in a wide variety of activities in their spare time. My grandma has been making dolls and miniatures for as long as I can remember. She has spent thousands of dollars on them over the course of her life, and she has rooms full of them. She also spends a great deal of time doing it. So it's not that, and I don't want to paint too broad of a brush because we often get caught up in that for sure, but for those who have never really shown any evidence of having any hobbies, this can also be a factor. Playing sports is another activity that comes to mind when I think of this. Possibly not by playing an instrument, but I want to direct this toward women who primarily rely on their physical appearance to get attention and to get satisfaction, and to get that satisfaction trigger going in their brain. Specifically, I want to direct this toward women who leave off the impression that, wow, this girl clearly works out. She looks out for her own health and well-being. It is clear that she's put in some effort. I'm interested in dating her, but she doesn't have any interests outside of work, which might seem like a trivial detail, but you should think about why this might be. There are 4 of them, and I'm going to outline them here. The first one that I brought up is that they will prevent you from engaging in your hobbies. I'll never forget my first college girlfriend. I work out a lot, and I always want to work out, and if I don't, it messes up my mental state, and I just don't feel as good. It got to the point where I wanted things that she said it externally, like she would actually speak to me and say this, but she almost like equated it to me cheating, like it's constant, like I'm putting working out before her, which, girl, if I'm not working out, the thing is that there is a double standard here. If you don't go to the gym, you won't be able to keep up with the physical condition that they require you to have. Yet, they don't want you to exercise at all because it will put that before them, and it will take time away from you. This kind of applies to a lot of things, so if you aren't engaging in a hobby and you've never really looked at someone who devotes that much time to it and it doesn't garner any financial or societal gain, it will seem foolish, and there they might shame you into stopping that hobby, which is an issue that can lead to a lack of fulfillment. Whether or not you are aware of it, the person who was responsible for you giving up the hobby is someone you have every right to harbor resentment toward. A lack of intrinsic drive and motivation may also be expressed by this behavior. So, external motivators in life, when you look at it from the most animalistic level, would be like running away from a dangerous wild animal. Hunting night and day to deal with hunger to provide for your tribe, and these things they engage your adrenals. For example, running away from a dangerous wild animal would be like running away from a dangerous wild animal. In order to complete them, you experience a surge of adrenaline, making them the most effective motivators. However, I would compare it to running a race. It is impossible to keep up this pace indefinitely. The fuel that keeps you going when you're working toward a goal for a long period of time is your intrinsic motivation. Invention is driven by this force. It is what that has been the driving force behind the progress that society has made. It's the entrepreneurial side that you don't need to venture into, which are hobbies, but they, in turn, help society and in significant ways. So, when internal motivation isn't present in a person, I found that a person is kind of uninteresting. It's the entrepreneurial side that you don't need to venture into, which are hobbies, but they help society and in significant ways. I believe that what makes people the most interesting to other people is their choice of hobbies. Things of this nature are things that we do of our own free will, and they won't create for him or her a situation that in the long run will give them greater personal and financial freedom. There are countless ways in which hobbies can be used to develop skills. In today's world, there are a variety of skills that can be monetized or made monetarily profitable through the pursuit of hobbies. Thirdly, I'd say that she puts a lot of her attention and focus on you. She might even do this to an unhealthy degree. So finding that balance of good attention, amount of attention, and time spent together is so important in relationship, and if you throw it off, especially early on, you're either going to get burnt out of the person or you're going to feel neglected, and women are especially more prone to, and they require a greater balance than men do, and so if she doesn't have a hobby or a history of having Javi's hobbies, she'll have not only far more time to spend with you and want to spend with you, she will have higher expectations of what she can glean from you and look to you as the means by which she can accomplish more of her goals. If you're really investing into this art that you're making, this painting of this website you're trying to start, then you understand that not everything has to come from that person you're dating. In order to get personal satisfaction in life, you have your own ventures, which is really healthy. These things bolster relationships. These things put less pressure on relationships, and it just balances things out, and too much of an attention and expectation because of a lack of a hobby can actually be detrimental. Another thing is she's probably likely to be more promiscuous, so I mentioned this. If a female's sexual marketplace value is high and she's been seen by many people as pretty or sexy, then she'll naturally invest more time into that, because if you have triggered those satisfaction nodes in your brain because people are recognizing that you're hot and people come up to you and comment about that, then you're going to want to continually go back there. You're not really going to have to venture to pursue these hobbies because it's, oh, let me just put some makeup on, let me make sure I eat okay and exercise a little bit and buy nice clothes and expensive clothes, and all of a sudden, I'm gonna get free drinks at the bar. I'm gonna get date requests all the time. I'm gonna get new gifts. Why would I want to spend more time on a hobby if I can just do this and be satisfied? They're just going to go back into their basic form of which this is still based off of procuring a mate ultimately. That's what it still comes down to. Even if they don't want to get married, it's the reason that it feels good is because it comes down to we're biologically wired to procreate. That's why this feels good in the first place at all, so it dupes you. And it's another thing that I've noticed with women that don't have hobbies.